Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Disney Dining Show. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends, Mr. Charles Boda.
Hello.
And Mr. Steve Porter.
Hello.
In this episode, since we are in the holiday season now, we thought it would be a good time to discuss dining options if you don't have an ADR. Now, I know a lot of you are the obsessive planners that, 6 months out to the day, you're booking your ADRs, but there are plenty of you out there that are a little bit more existential. Worst time of year imaginable to be existential with dining at Disney World are the holidays. Now, this applies all year long, but I think it's just particularly germane right now because of the crowds.
Yeah.
Everything like that. So if you don't have an advanced dining reservation at one of Disney's table service restaurants, we came up with a list of restaurants that we have found to be fairly easy to get at the last minute, but that are really, really good.
I also just want to put like a little asterisk. This is what is typical, but don't say if any of these are very important to you, don't just think, oh, well, the Diz says you can get it last minute. If it's important, still get it as soon as possible.
You definitely look. ADRs are always a good idea,
right?
Always, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes, and like for us, a lot of times when we're booking restaurants. We're booking them a day or two in advance, maybe sometimes the same day. Mm-hmm. So we actually know, I know for myself, I know pretty well which restaurants I stand a really good chance of getting on short notice versus ones that I really need to buckle down and make a reservations for. So with that said, let's talk. When Steve brought up this topic to me, the first one that came into my head was Trails End over at Fort Wilderness. This is a particularly good option if you are at the Magic Kingdom, because all you need to do is take the Fort Wilderness boat from Magic Kingdom right over to Fort Wilderness. It's a short walk right to Trails End. It's great for a midday break if you want to do lunch or dinner.
If you're familiar with the food at Hoop-de-Doo, it's a lot of the same food plus additional. I think there's a roast and a couple other things that you don't see at Hoop-de-Doo.
There's some seafood on that. Buffet. I don't know how good it is. I don't eat seafood. But the fried chicken's wonderful. The cornbread's really, really good. They have a decent salad bar, pizza, other items. It's very much comfort food. It's one of my favorite places to eat. It's also one of the best values on property for a buffet for the price. And Fort Wilderness is just a really cool place to go hang out. It's one of the more unique locations, I think, resort-wise, at Walt Disney World. And Steve misspelled this one.
It autocorrected. It kept trying to say citrus.
So now it's Citricos.
Yeah, it autocorrected to not a word, though.
Yeah, all right.
Citrous.
All right.
What Steve labels as Citrous is, in fact, Citricos over at the Grand Floridian. This is a signature restaurant. If you are on the dining plan, it is 2 table service credits versus Trails End, which is 1. And there's a reason for that. This is a really good restaurant. It's consistently good. It's not consistently great, but it's good. So Citricos is one I will do in a pinch. Mm-hmm. If, I got to do a special meal. But, it's like a last minute thing. Citricos almost always has availability. Almost always. Now, have you guys done either of those 2 places?
I've done Trails End and Citricos, and I agree. I think Citricos is a good option if you want to have a special meal. But if you want it to be really special, you maybe want to plan out a little bit further to go somewhere else. I kind of agree with your...
And one of the points I want to make, when you make these last-minute ADRs, a lot of times what you're going to get are what we refer to as the shoulder times. So you may get a dinner reservation at 4:30 or 5 o'clock or at 9 o'clock, where the peak hours of 6, 7, 8 are the ones that are usually taken. So keep that in mind as well. A lot of times you'll find these restaurants, but you'll find them a little later on or a little later in the evening or a little earlier in the day. But Citricos, a really good choice, again, especially if you're at the Magic Kingdom. It's a monorail ride over to the Grand Floridian. So it's very simple to get to. Over in Hollywood Studios, another readily available 2 table service credit signature restaurant, the Hollywood Brown Derby. This is one of my favorite restaurants
I've never been.
on property. You've never been?
No.
And you've
Neither
never been?
have I. We had one scheduled, and then it kept getting bumped. So Steve and I are fingers crossed.
Oh, so that's passive aggressive. He keeps canceling. All right, no, we will definitely set something up Brown Derby because Brown Derby is so good. Of course, Brown Derby known for the Cobb salad. The Hollywood Brown Derby was the restaurant, the original in Hollywood, which is no longer there, was the restaurant that invented the Cobb salad. They're also famous here for their grapefruit cake. Their grapefruit cake is so good for dessert. But Brown Derby, really kind of easy to get one. Now,
I was surprised when you said that because I've always heard you say it was so great that I guess it hasn't got that notice apparently hasn't gotten out to everyone else.
you got to remember, it's a 2 table service restaurant
in park.
Yeah. If they want to lower the attendance at a restaurant, they make it 2 table service credits. If Brown Derby was 1 table service credit, you would never be able to touch a reservation there. Never. But this is one of the ways that the dining plan kind of works in your favor if you're not using the dining plan. So Brown Derby, an absolute winner. The other one, Charles, I know you've eaten. I think everybody's eaten there. Tiffins.
Yeah.
Tiffins over in Animal Kingdom. Again, I believe it's 1 table service. It's not a signature restaurant. It's 1 table service credit. Very, very good food. You love the lounge.
Yeah. But yeah, the main restaurant is, I don't know, for me, with the quality that they have, even now, it's still surprisingly slow at a lot of what I would expect to be busier times.
Well, and I'll just add to that. I was expecting when Pandora opened that the flow of traffic making its way back towards that section of the park would have made this more popular, but it really hasn't.
Yeah, that's why I brought up even now.
Yeah.
Because I kind of get it before when it was nestled into its own little private thing. Not a lot of people knew about it or walked past it. But it didn't really explode like I thought it would. But that's to my benefit and your benefit if you want to go there, because usually there's not much of a wait or difficulty getting in there at all.
And it's particularly good at lunch. I found it to be particularly good at lunch. Another one that's kind of out of the way. You got to work to get to this one, but it's worth the effort for dinner, because I don't believe they serve lunch. Over at Saratoga Springs, the Turf Club Bar and Grill. This is a hidden gem. The food there is so good. Service was really good. But like I said, it's at Saratoga Springs. Now, if you're over at Disney Springs, if you're spending the evening at Disney Springs, especially in the marketplace area, you can walk over to Saratoga Springs. It's about a 15-minute walk. There's a direct path that goes there, so you're not like walking in the street or anything. But you can walk over there. Now, this is the Turf Club is not in the main building. It's in the golf club.
Turf.
Well, what do they call the buildings for golf?
Clubhouse?
Clubhouse, I guess, yeah.
We're all golfers, as
Yeah, we're all
experienced.
But that's where this is. So a little bit, if you're not driving, or even if you're taking the bus or anything like that, if you're not driving, it's a little bit out of the way. But if you're looking for something new and different, last minute, this is a great option. Of course, I've spoken frequently and lovingly of the Flying Fish. This is an relatively good. It's over at the Boardwalk. This is a really good restaurant in general. Consistently great food, consistently great service. Since it reopened a couple of years ago, this is a restaurant I spend a lot of time at. And it's great because you can get a last-minute reservation there. Now, it's not all the time. There are times where it's just not available. but generally speaking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if you're in Epcot, it's a really quick walk from International Gateway over to Boardwalk.
Yeah, I was just surprised you said that this one was easy to get. I mean, I've never tried to get this reservation, but there's another one. It must be with is it 2 table service credits?
It is 2 table service credits, yes.
So that's got to be.
Well, but that's people are used to that in the deluxe resorts. But it's absolutely worth going out of your way. So if you're at Epcot, you're not getting the restaurant you want in World Showcase. And honest to God, really, Flying Fish is better than pretty much anything in World Showcase.
Well, and that's one of the weird things about this list is you'd think that a lot of the restaurants would be compromise restaurants. I couldn't get this. It's last minute, so I have to get this. But I'm never going to tell somebody like, oh, well, I guess you're going to suffer and have to go to Flying Fish for like, It's not like a last minute compromise so much as, you're using a little bit of strategy in trying to find something that hasn't already been taken. But Flying Fish is a great restaurant, regardless of whether you got an ADR for it or not.
Right.
I looking at the list, I'm thinking it might be partially due to the fact that a lot of them are not typically family type restaurants where, we don't have a lot of or any character meals. These are all. And maybe that's what it is. I honestly don't know.
No, I think it really and look, and at different times of the year, depending on what's going on. Look, if there's a convention happening at the Boardwalk,
right,
you're not getting Flying Fish.
Yeah.
Okay. It just depends. So again, this is not hard and fast rule that these are always going to be available. Generally speaking, when I'm looking at last minute reservations, which are pretty much the bulk of what I do, these are the ones that usually are available. Now, next door to the Flying Fish, over at the Walt Disney World Swan, is arguably the best Italian restaurant in Orlando, Il Mulino, and it is absolutely phenomenal Italian food. Pasta's made fresh every day. I've never been disappointed. I've eaten there over a dozen times at least, and never once walked out of there saying anything other than, wow, that's really, really good food. Same with the service. I do not believe they are on the Disney dining plan. I could be wrong about that.
I don't think so.
I don't think they are, but whether they are or not, this is a great restaurant. It is expensive, though. It trends more expensive than other signature restaurants around World Showcase. I think because Swan and Dolphin is such a big convention property that these restaurants tend to charge more because they know it's being expensed.
And that is correct. It is not on the Disney dining plan.
It is not on the Disney dining plan. If it was, it would definitely be 2 table service credits, but it's not. Now, one that Steve pointed out that I'd almost forgotten about, because it has gotten a lot better in recent years. Again, if you're over by the Magic Kingdom, a quick walk over to the Contemporary for the Wave. Especially lunch. Lunch I've had a few times recently and was exceptionally good. And there was a time where the Wave was not.
Yeah, it was not good at all. I think that reputation is maybe why it's still somewhat easy to get a reservation for.
I always see the show up available for ADRs.
Yeah,
always.
And I think it's that past. So if you haven't been in a while, it's worth giving a second chance, especially because it's probably going to be available for you. So yeah, I really enjoy the Wave. At breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me, I've gone for all of them, and I think they're all great. So.
And finally on our list, we actually have one honorable mention that we'll get to. But finally on our list, again, out of the way, this is not an easy one necessarily to get to, but Sanaa over at Animal Kingdom Lodge. Sanaa oftentimes has plenty of availability, but it is, because it's an Animal Kingdom Lodge, it's a little out of the way, especially if you're not driving. But it's worth a minivan or an Uber over to any of these places. That's one of your other options if you're, not nearby. But Sanaa, now this is more Mediterranean, African-inspired food, so it may not be everyone's taste.
I think when we did our review, I believe we were still able to find quite a few things that were palatable to like less adventurous eaters.
Sean.
But yeah. But Stephen mentioned something interesting when he was talking about kind of the dynamic of who's choosing what, and I was on board with a few of those, like flying fish, Citricos and stuff. But for Sanaa, it's actually perfect for families. It's just out of the way because they have animals behind the glass there and everything like that, and you can walk directly outside to see them, and it's kind of like this great experience thing. And like you've got the bread service. It is a great kind of group or family activity experience kind of event, but it's just takes forever to get out there, and if you're not staying there, you probably haven't even thought of it.
Exactly. Now, the honorable mention here, and I never thought I would put this restaurant on a list of good options if you don't have an ADR, but it seems to be trending this way. That's why we're giving it an honorable mention and not technically adding it to the list. But that's Be Our Guest at the Magic Kingdom. Ever since they have put that restaurant as a 2-table service credit restaurant with a prefix menu and a set price, when I do my last-minute reservations, I am seeing this show up more and more often, usually later in the evening. But what was happening was prior to this, it was 1-table service credit, and so everybody wanted to be there. Plus, a lot of people were making reservations and just going in and trying cupcakes or the gray stuff and not having dinner. Well, Disney clamped down on that, making it 2-table service credits and making it a prefix menu. Craig and Jackie reviewed it when it first switched over to prefix and gave it rave reviews. We were hearing great things about the menu. And even today, here it is, the beginning of December, I looked at what was available for tonight. We're recording this on a Monday, and I had 2 options for dinner at Be Our Guest tonight. So it is possible. Again, not as common as the other ones on this list, but something to keep in mind. That would be a great score if you could get it. For dinner, do not bother with this place for breakfast or lunch. It's horrible. But dinner, different story. So there you have it, our list of good options. If you don't have an ADR, Trails End at Fort Wilderness, Citricos at the Grand Floridian, the Brown Derby at Hollywood Studios, Tiffins at Animal Kingdom, Turf Club Bar and Grill at Saratoga Springs, Flying Fish at the Boardwalk, Mulino at the Swan, The Wave over at the Contemporary, Sanaa at Animal Kingdom Lodge, and if you're a little bit lucky, Be Our Guest in the Magic Kingdom. And that will do it for this episode of the Disney Dining Show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next week.